You are about to see a revised version of a lecture that I presented during the World Unity Week on the 21st of June. This lecture was pre-recorded, but unfortunately something went wrong with the sound. And as a consequence, certain parts were audibly seen missing. Because I feel that the summary of the information given in this presentation is important, I decided to record the second part again. So it's not exactly as it was presented, but it has the same basic information. So the introduction and the meditation at the end is the same, but about half of the information is new. I did this because I feel that this is how shall I put it? It's a piece of information that induces the willingness to discuss a new vision. That was the title. The title was New Earth Rising, and the subtitle of the part I was part of was the New Earth Vision. And that is what I have been looking for. So use this as a way to stimulate yourself and think about the different aspects and what you think about it, because we need many people's input to come to a new vision. I'll enjoy the lecture. I'm sure there is something that you can resonate with. Thank you for your willingness to listen to it. Hi, I am Jaap van Etten, and I must say that I'm very happy to be a contributor to the theme of the World Unity Week, the theme New Earth Rising, and especially be invited by Antonia and Janice to be part of this convergence room. And the excitement for me is because New Earth, thinking about models, thinking about aspects of a new Earth, has been with me from the beginning of my, I would say, scientific journey that later turned into a more metaphysical journey. When I was working as a research scientist in Kenya, one of the things that for me was so apparent is that we tend to think about issues. It's changing, but it was at that time definitely solely from a human perspective. So humans need this, so we need to do that. Never was the question, but how is that for the Earth? How is that for the ecosystem? So I've seen that solutions where many countries were contributing to, and the Food and Agriculture Organization was part of that, and what they call a 40 years eradication program of tsetse flies to make sure that people had more proteins in Africa. And yes, that project stopped because it was a failure. Yes, tsetse flies can be a nuisance, but they were also protecting the ecology. Cattle didn't belong there, and we will never get cattle out of the world. I'm aware of that, but at the same time, it created a tremendous amount of problems with respect to destruction of ecology. And that was for me the beginning of realizing, wow, the way we think about the Earth comes from placing humans in the center. So that was the beginning. And later, when I added other aspects like metaphysical aspects, I began to see that we are so limited in looking at what the Earth is really all about, that it is not easy to find real solutions or information that will lead to the new Earth. So over the years, I gathered a lot of information, did my research now in more metaphysical aspects, because I believe that we need to include the subtle energies in order to understand the Earth. So what I'd like to present today in my presentation is an overview of different aspects that I feel that we need at least to ponder upon. aspects that I feel are essential for getting a new vision that will lead to a new earth. My invitation to all people that are listening is not to listen from your mind, because our mind is already full with ideas, but to listen from your heart. Because when you listen from your heart, you can feel where you resonate with, what feels like a truth to you. And by taking out of the different presentations those elements that are resonating with you, you can build your own vision of the new earth, so to speak. Because you will feel and see and sense and discover that they will contain the same elements, but all slightly different formulated. And that's how we can ultimately come to a real idea about what we need to change in order to create a new earth. I will show you quite some images, because I believe that looking at my face will not help you all that much, but an image can help to understand what I'm talking about a little bit better. And you get far more information in those images than you need. So that's why it's so important to follow the outline of what I share with you. And also, as I said, listening from your heart, because then you're not distracted by, oh, he is not including that, and he's not including that. I will not include all aspects of everything that I show you. The key is to give you the most important elements of areas that we need to ponder upon in order to co-create a new earth. So it's like a journey, and I hope you will enjoy the journey. And after the journey, I would like to do with you a guided meditation, because we can pump our heads full, and even though you listen with your heart, it still needs to be processed in your head, pump full with new information. When we are together through a meditation, connect with some of these aspects, it will be deeper integrated in your system, and you will benefit far more from it and get a better and deeper connection with it. So let's start with the first image. And in this first image, I give actually an overview of the key points that I believe we need to at least consider in order to change our way of thinking about the earth. And by considering these points, we may be able to create something entirely new. So the very first thing is, I mentioned that already, is that humans are not central, but the earth needs to be central. That is where we need to look at, because the earth provides everything for all living beings, which includes us. So by understanding the earth and how the system works in a better way, we will also be able to understand what we need to change to support the earth so that it can truly support us. And with us, I mean all living beings, including the human species. And when we are studying the earth, is the second point, is we begin to understand that the earth itself is crystalline in nature. And when we expand and understand that all those planets and suns are actually all also crystalline, we can make the statement that the universe is crystalline in nature, the earth is crystalline in nature, and as a consequence, everyone that lives on the earth is crystalline in nature. The next point is that the earth is an integrated part of the universe. So you cannot see it as something separate. If you see the earth as separate, like this round sphere somewhere floating in space, we miss the point that in the same way as everything within the earth is interacting, also everything outside the earth is interacting. The next point that is woven through this presentation is the fact that all creation is essential. is essential for the evolution of the Earth system. And we are in a natural flow of evolution. And we are now in a phase that evolution needs to become conscious. And because we have been invited, and I will share quite a bit about that in this lecture. And then the point that I mentioned already, to understand the world in which we live, we need to include the subtle energies. And with that, the subtle world, subtle beings. And they are more abundant than people realize. Actually, I personally believe there are more subtle beings living on Earth than there are actually physical beings. And all of that is interrelating with each other. And the last one is realize that all potential is already there. It's not that, oh, it's not yet there, it needs to come to us. No, it's there. It's consciousness that decides which aspect of all that potential will be realized, will become manifested. So those points will not in a chronological order as I present them here, but they are, you can say, flowing through the presentation that I will do. So let's start looking at a few elements. So, and you may understand we need to start with the Earth, saying that the Earth is central, and we talk about the new Earth. So yes, this is our focus. The focus is on this beautiful planet that provides everything for every living being on it, crystalline being, part of the crystalline universe. And that beautiful being is part of the solar system. This is the image that shows how we think about our solar system. As soon as you go into the metaphysical aspects of it, then this whole image is changing, because then it turns out that there are not 9, well, if we include Pluto, and it's 9, but actually 12 planets, because there are also planets that are invisible. And some people believe in it and some people doesn't, and that's all okay. And this whole system, the solar system, is part of the Milky Way. Well, and as we know, the Milky Way, you can see that actually is not covering the whole universe. No, it's one of the many, many, many galaxies in the universe. Can you imagine, looking at what you see here, that there are so many planets there? Even though we have not seen them, we begin to see them increasingly, and all of them are crystalline in nature. So the crystalline vibrations are very, very, very important throughout the universe. And if you go back to the Earth, and then you see these rocks and you see stones, and you say, wow, yeah, that's true. Yeah, this is all basically crystalline material. And yeah, all those plants and trees are growing out of rocks, out of, let's say, rocks that have been pulverized, sand, clay. It's all the same material in different sizes that provides that what is needed for all the plants and the trees that we need in order to live. We may not directly take, the crystalline materials out of the earth like trees and plants are doing, but we do that through the plants. Yeah. And since we are built up in a very unique way, and we will look at that, then you understand that we are built up out of living parts that all have a resonance with crystalline energies. So, crystalline energies. When we talk about that, yes, we can believe that there are rocks, we can believe that there are crystals, there are these big stones that the megalith builders were using for their constructs. And of course, nowadays we see crystals in all kinds of shapes, like crystal skulls or dragon skulls or whatever form. We see them in the form of unicorns, of dolphins, of whales. I've seen almost everything. A little raven we have on the table here. So all of that is giving form to something that comes from Mother Earth and is crystalline in nature. So we are surrounded by it. We are walking through it. We are sitting on it. We are meditating with it. So yes, crystal energies are very, very important. So all those plants that you see here are taking crystalline material out of the soil. And that is also true for the bacteria. If you realize that we have more bacteria in our system than we have DNA of our own cells, bacterial DNA is dominant in our system. So we are actually a walking ecosystem. And there are viruses, bacteria, fungi in our system that helps this system that we call the human being to function. Yes, some of them are disrupting it also, but the key is that it only disrupts when the system is not able to deal with those disruptions or is not completely in balance. Realizing through this image that we have so many bacteria in our system, which we call the microbiome, that is more information from them than from us, yeah, that's an interesting point of view, right? It helps us to understand already how everything is interrelated, and it has to do with evolution, as we will look at later. So all living beings on Earth are crystalline, and they resonate with the Earth. Yeah, and that is a very important statement. So you may understand that when we disrupt the energies of the Earth, in that moment, we disrupt that where we need to resonate with in order to be healthy. Well, maybe that's the reason why so many are popping pills and run to doctors. Because we are resonating, well, not, no, I should say we are not even resonating with the earth. And when we resonate with the earth who is not in balance. You know, my presentation is not about saying what's wrong with the earth. My presentation is about looking at the earth in a different way so that we can create a balance, a new balance leading to a new earth. Okay. We are all, I think, anybody who opens their eyes and read and listen and know that we have created an earth that's out of balance. The ecosystems are rambling in all different ways. We have polluted and so on and so forth. So the key is just how can we change it and not, well, we should have, no. What are we doing now? And the first step is realizing that we are depending on the earth. This statement that you see here on this image from Nikola Tesla, which is considered to be one of the major scientists of the last century. That statement has really stimulated me in doing what I do. And I'm reading it to you because it's so important. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, which means subtle energy, subtle beings, subtle worlds, it will make more progress in one decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. If you let this sink in, then you begin to realize that not only Nikola Tesla, but many top scientists, and not everyone has been so outspoken as Nikola Tesla is, that it's already a realization that there is more than just only the physical measurable, that's what we see with our senses, but that there is way, way, way more beyond that. And that we have to overcome the limitations that are imposed on every idea when we stick only to the physical reality. And that's a challenge, because we don't have systems to measure. And since we don't trust I feel, we only trust is I think or I've measured. But we have to learn to trust what we feel, share about that. And when we see similarities in what we feel, we build something up, an understanding. We can also discuss what we see, whether that's correct, and I can guarantee you that when you let people see something like a little bit complex object and then ask people, what did you see? You get slightly different descriptions. Well, yes, so even when we feel different things, and because we are not trained, We need to have more training to feel more complete what is out there. But at the same time, while a lot of people say, no, I don't want to go to subtle beings and whatever, we are all agreeing that we have life force. Because if there's no life force, we are dead. But we cannot measure life force because it's subtle energy. Yeah? And we accept that. And there's much more that we can accept. And we see an increasing acceptance that around the human being, there are different energy layers, as you see in this image, and often summarized under the term aura, and that we have centers that we call chakras. Centers that, from my perspective, are far larger than in our system because we find similar resonating systems on the Earth, in planets, in star systems. It's a universal resonance system that we also resonate with, and that can help us understand how we can become in harmony with the universe through the Earth, always through the Earth. Yeah. So, because they are actually reflecting how we interact, the chakras, you may understand that also the interaction between the different energy layers are also creating chakras, and that brings the 7 of the physical plus those 5 that interact between the different energy bodies and the world outside, creates a 12 chakra system. Energy layers, when we look at the human system you just saw, then we talk about the energy bodies. But for those who are very sensitive, they know that within each of those there are, you can say, areas that are having a denser vibration and less dense vibration. And I call them layers of frequencies that literally are, you can say, I can't say measurable, I could say detectable. Yeah? And that is true for a stone or a crystal. I made this image because of a crystal skull, but I could have put any crystal in the center. And when you pay attention to a crystal, what you see is that it expands its energy field. And the way it expands is dense energy and not dense energy. And the dense energy are like rings around it, So that's what you see. So I call those rings layers, and that means that what you see here are 12 layers. Now, this is a very important aspect because those 12 layers form a group. Most stones and crystals have one group, but there are crystals that have more, and I will show you an overview in a little bit. And those layers affect actually the way the system, the Earth system, works. And what you see is an overview of the different fields and grids. Grids are lines on the Earth of energies. And I'm not going through every detail that we could do a whole lecture, a whole workshop of days on this subject. Yeah. But the key point is that there are crystalline energies in grids that are actually in 3 major groups, and connected with each group are other grid systems. So you see that based on the crystalline energy of Mother Earth, other systems are built. And that includes, for example, the human consciousness. And all of that whole system is determined by what is called the morphogenetic field of the Earth. And morphogenetic means the morpho, to generate the form. It is the information system that creates form. And we need that information in order to create out of that potential in that field. That's what then becomes an expression. That is, you can say, evolution in motion, working with those grids. And I wrote a whole book about those different grids systems for those who say, oh, well, that's interesting. And you may like to read more about that, it's called Gifts of Mother Earth. So how does it then work? I talk about fields and grids. Well, a field is like a layer, like the layers around a crystal, like the layers around our system, but there are also layers around the Earth that holds the potential. So the top is the energy field or the information layer, which is the potential of something. When consciousness, whatever consciousness it is, works with that information of the energy field, then it is brought into the Earth system, and that creates the grids, lines that form patterns. And the vortex is the connection between those two. So if you would be able to find the center of a vortex, and you're going to sit there and meditate, you cannot only feel, for example, human consciousness. You cannot not only feel the human consciousness that's in the grid, that's what has been realized, so that you can expand yours, but you even can, if you're ready for that, tap into the potential and bring literally more information into the grids. That's the principle of evolution. Potential is there, and as we will see, if a potential is not stable, that's also expanding. But the whole process is bringing more information of the potential into a manifestation that stimulates the continuous evolution, continuous change. And we can see that over millions of years quite easily, but realize it's happening in every second, every minute, something is shifting. Not maybe detectable for us, unless you're very, very, very sensitive, but it's happening. And that result, and ultimately, I mentioned already in 12 levels of the crystalline grids. Now, the interesting thing is that 9 of these levels are resonating with the world that we live in. But the Earth has more worlds, meaning there are other systems of different vibrations that we are not directly aware of, that has their own vibration, their own life. Yes, I know, not that easy to believe, but I will explain where that's based on. And then you see level 10, 11, and 12 have to do with other worlds. So the most complex is our world. And there is a reason for that, because we are at the lowest vibration, but at the same time, it forms the foundation from where evolution needs to take place. So we live in the most challenging world, but also in the most important world. And here you see that presented in a different way. So we have Mother Earth. Yeah? And Mother Earth is directly affected by the morphogenetic system of the solar system. So you can say, in a sense, that the sun determines, what reaches Mother Earth coming from the universe. Yeah? And Mother Earth receives that and creates her morphogenetic system, the system that then determines what's possible within her own world, yeah? Leading to 12 different fields. And I put here the star nations because there is a lot of input, and that goes through what we call portals, that is coming into the Earth. And those systems of information that comes into the Earth affects the morphogenetic system. So you can say that depending on the openness of Mother Earth, she brings in more energy that will stimulate even further evolution. Now, those 12 fields can be separated in 3 major groups. One is the 6 fields that support physical expressions: viruses, bacteria, fungi, spore plants, flowers, evergreens, deciduous trees. All of them are basically needed in order to make the animal expressions possible. And those animal expressions are basically supporting the expressions on the etheric astral level. And the etheric astral level belongs to the physical system and have to do with emotions and beliefs, thinking. Well, thinking is an interesting word because thinking is what we think our way of thinking is, but there are other forms as well. So you can say that even plants and animals have a mind, and definitely that those minds have been expanded in the animal kingdom. And then we have the three fields that support the spiritual expressions on Earth, and that are the vertebrates. Believe it or not, they are needed for us as humans to be able to be who we are. But there are other beings that we call invisible, and I mentioned them in this overview. So here you have it. Ancient ones, which are like the devas. Dragons and unicorns, yes, they exist. I will come back very briefly later on that one. So this is then an overview in a linear way. These are the levels. If you remember this, then you remember something very key for the foundation of thinking about creating a new Earth. First, there needed to be the level 1, bacteria and viruses. Without that, there could not be fungi. Without fungi, there could not be plants. Spore plants, flowering plants, and you don't even have to talk about the trees. So all that what you see here, bacteria, viruses, fungi, are needed to develop the different plant aspects. And they were needed in order to create the environment for animals to exist. So every step is a condition for the next step. And once the next step is, all the previous ones are also unfolding. They are still evolving. Bacteria are not stagnant. No, they are continuously evolving as well. So we see literally like a wave going through the morphogenetic systems, and through that, a continuous evolution of all aspects of what exists. And we are currently developing the level 11, co-creators, mostly us. Although some dragons are part of that, unicorns are part of that, and the humpback whale is part of that, as far as I understand. So, but most of it is us, human beings, co-creators. So we are definitely evolving. We are now learning to connect, whether we know that consciously, do that consciously or not, to connect with the consciousness that belongs to the co-creator, so that we can use that to begin to fulfill that role. So far, we have not been able to do a good job because we are in the initial phase of that. So part of understanding us is understanding that we are co-creators. And this level 12, yeah, level 12 is not yet there, although some people are already tapping into that, and that is the enlightened human being. But you can also say it's the enlightened co-creator. Yeah. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of this continuous evolution. Yeah. And we are now, this first part was evolution based on the morphogenetic systems, but now consciousness is coming in as a more active form. And that's why I like the title of this convergence room, Conscious Evolution. And you may say, it's all beautiful, yeah, all your stories, but where do you base it on? Well, each of those grids that belong to the 12 morphogenetic systems have vortexes, and anybody who either is sensitive or can dowse can find them. And what you see here, there's this little bottle there with some crystal skulls, is a level 11. That's our co-creator. So that's why I put this up. This is the energy that you can connect with, that is helping us to become a conscious creator so that we can contribute to conscious evolution. Yeah. And those different grids are always existing in three forms: child, masculine, and feminine, the sacred trinity. And I will say a few more things about that. But let's first look at This one, so here you see one as a level 12. This is where we will move to. This is the enlightened human being. And this is the vortex, meaning there is already a grid, and there is, of course, the field. The fact that there is already the grid is indicating that enough people have connected with it, and this will expand, stimulating us to become increasingly enlightened. So the overview, now going to human consciousness. And what you see in this overview is that there are 12, you see again, 12 levels, 12 fields of morphogenetic system, 12 crystalline grid levels. I can go on and on and on with that. Yeah. So this image is showing a whole story. And in this one, you see also the words first world, second world, third world, and the fourth world. I will tell a short story, and then I will illustrate it with a couple of images. The story goes as follows, and this is based on the energies that I feel when I'm sitting on those points and share that with other people that feel similar things. So when the 10 morphogenetic fields were sufficiently developed, the Earth was ready for the development of the 11th. And for that, it needed the co-creator, which means a being that was able to literally be a co-creator in all aspects of her beingness. So she realized that you need specific souls in order to do that. Souls that were willing to incarnate in the different forms that were already developing due to evolutionary systems, through which they could help Mother Earth to create this new world that we are talking about. So the souls that answer the call of Mother Earth are called, I call them the founders. And I call them the founders because they founded actually the system of consciousness. They created 12 different subfields that and laid the foundation for the grids in order to have a map for those souls that came to Earth to become co-creators. But there's a big but in that one. It's not only the highest frequency of the Earth where they needed to be co-created, no, the whole system, which include the physical body. So in the same way as we have a physical body, an etheric body, an astral body, an emotional, a mental, and a spiritual body, so does the Earth. We are reflecting systems of Mother Earth. So Mother Earth has those systems. So the first souls were still in this high frequency. So what they did is they incarnated in that aspect of Mother Earth that we call her spiritual body. And that developed the first world. The first world is the experience of the first, you can say, human souls, highest level of consciousness, level 12, that experience the Earth. And the whole journey was meant to do something unnatural, going down in frequency. Systems want to evolve, don't want to go down. But the souls were brave. They knew what they needed to do. So at a certain moment, they shifted from the first world into the second world. It's the world that is dominated by the elemental power of water. The first world is fire. And that is the mental body of Mother Earth. And that is the longest period. Most levels took hundreds of millions of years before finally there was a shift into the next world, the third world, and that was dominated by the elemental power of air and is actually the emotional body of Mother Earth. And after that, we plunged into the darkness of the physical. That's how a lot of people are experiencing it. They want to go to the light. So this is not light, apparently. Yes, this is also light, but it is a low vibration. And this low vibration is the fourth world dominated by the elemental power of Earth as the physical system of Mother Earth. And that's where we live in. And that's why we see everything from a physical perspective. But all that other is also there. There are beings living in all those worlds. And we are all needed to support Mother Earth's evolution. I know this may be for some of you a little bit difficult to grasp, but feel into it. That's why I invite you to listen from your heart. Yeah. So, the idea of four worlds is not something that I come up with. The Hopi believe in it, the Mayans, Aztecs, you can find it in the Kabbalah. The Greeks and the Romans believed in it, ancient Hindus, ancient Europeans. No, the idea of four worlds is a pretty common phenomenon that we forgot about. And you can see it this way. The four worlds form the basis, the foundation, and what we need to is the fifth world, which is the new world, is dominated by the elemental power of ether. That is the journey. We move to the top of the pyramid. So, in order to start this whole process, you can say that field, that consciousness field of the humans that needed to develop that 11th morphogenetic field needed to be induced. This is the induction point, done by the founders. I don't know how long ago, because there's a period in the first world that time didn't exist as we understand it. And this is in the Sedona area. And that is why Sedona, and that's my belief, is considered sacred through eons of times, up until today. This is where human consciousness starts. And I think subconsciously we all know that. And that's why people get excited to come to Sedona and say, oh, I want to live here. Maybe that's not the right reaction, but it is an understandable reaction. Yeah? And what I mentioned is the sacred trinity is very, very, very important. And the most common terms are child, feminine, and masculine. So the red is the induction point. And the founders believed that to explore the earth, you needed to do that from those three perspectives, and then to integrate it into a deeper understanding. Yeah. And that are the three locations. And this gives you a little bit of an overview of that sacred trinity. Many terms. As I mentioned, child, feminine, masculine. But also you can see the masculine as consciousness, or as fire, or as the father. As much as feminine can be creation, wisdom, water, Holy Spirit, and Shekinah. Do you notice that religion doesn't want to say the sacred feminine? Yeah. And then we have the child aspect, that's love, life force, the breath of the Creator, air, and the sun. Yeah, and there we see again this dominance of masculine aspects. I should say son and daughter, but in the traditions, I kept to the traditions and not trying to judge it. So this sacred trinity is important. And what happens is they induced those points also, so that the three paths could be walked as optimal as possible, so that also ultimately the integration could be as optimal as possible. So this is the place where the induction of the feminine is. And you can always later, because I understand that the recording will be available for quite a while, stop it and really feel deeper into it. But within the time that I have available, we can't spend too much time on each of the images. And this is the child point. And you see again the bottle here. This is the center. And this is the masculine point. Well, you see immediately in the previous one, there was just more or less pristine nature. And here we see a construction. This is done by the Pueblo people. And this masculine place has been used through eons of time. And it has something to do with, it's also action. Masculine has to do with action. And we live in a solar system that is connected to, I call it the third, but it's the masculine one, the solar plexus, the action one. And the same is true for our Milky Way and actually our whole universe. Yeah. So that is why we have this tendency to let the masculine energy to dominate, forgetting that everything is depending on the wisdom of the feminine. And that the feminine is the creation, and the masculine Energy can jump up and down. Without the feminine, nothing is happening. So to go back to this one, we are living in this fourth world, and it has 3 levels of consciousness. And I like to define them as follows. Level 1 is the I consciousness. This is the level in which we have to have a healthy ego, and it can only happen when we are able to let go of fears and worries. Something very difficult for humanity in this state of its evolution. So even though we can then move to higher states of consciousness, most people plunge back into that trying to wrestle with a healthy I consciousness and failing. If there is not a healthy I, there will be not a healthy we. And we see that very clearly. The we consciousness that we see each other all as equal, well, I think we can easily see that that's not happening in our society. And that we consciousness is also a form of collaboration based on equality. We have a lot to learn before there is a healthy we. And it is because there's not sufficient healthy I. And we don't even have to talk about the next step. I call it the all consciousness because then we see all life, visible and invisible, as equally important within the Earth system and ultimately within the whole universe. The interesting thing is that although there's all the other level of consciousness that you've seen, 12 levels, once you are living from this consciousness, you have access to all of that. I know that sounds difficult to believe. But the all consciousness is a oneness consciousness, and the rest is only an expansion of it. So we need to work within this fourth world on dealing with our egos, our fears, our worries, so that we can collaborate in such a way that we can go to deeper understanding of the whole. And all those consciousness grids have this particular characteristics. They have sublines within the lines, and they always have a trinity. And that trinity is actually the sacred trinity, built in every consciousness line to help us to understand that we need to find a balance between our feminine, masculine, and child aspects. And we have that independent of gender. That is our journey. So this is a little summary, and then you see that there are different grid systems. The first group of 12 layers refers to crystalline energies. So you see that crystalline energies directly have an effect on our consciousness and are related to chakras. I'm not going into the details. Just realize that they are all interacting with each other. And you can use this first group of 12 layers to create this healthy I. And that's why every stone in this world has 12 layers once they are fully activated and can support us doing that. Now you understand why I'm so excited about the crystalline universe, because it provides us with everything that we need. And as soon as you expand the frequencies, you can go to a healthy we, and we can ultimately go to the frequencies that support that all feeling. So the only thing that is important for this whole thing to realize is that the chakras and the crystalline energies and the different grids of consciousness are all working together to get us in that state that we can become this conscious co-creator. That is the beauty of this system. It is an unbelievable, beautiful system. So I go back for a moment to these layers. This is one group, and I mentioned already you can expand that into different other groups of 12, ultimately to 6, and it can even expand beyond that. Now, as you understand, it has a direct relationship, with our whole system that I have already shown to you, and what is important to understand is that those 6 energy bodies, as you see them mentioned here, have a direct relationship to different frequencies, the 6 group of 12 layers of crystalline energies. I'm not going through all the different materials, but there is one thing that is important to realize. All quartzes have the frequencies that can stimulate the energies of all our energy bodies. But I say that with a but. When you really want to work on your physical system, sometimes you simply need a stone from your own yard that can have just those energies that then work for you to bring that aspect of your physical body into balance. So I don't think I always have to work with quartzes because they do everything. But yes, quartzes can do that. And that's the gift of Mother Earth. The quartz energies can make sure that you as a human system can be in the most optimal state. And now to work with it. That is the key, of course, right? Otherwise, we will never reach that point. And that's why I like quartz, and this is my favorite. No, I'm not allowed to say favorite because I'm supposed to like them all, but this is the one that I've worked most with, Sam. You may now understand this image better. What you see is, again, the 6 energy bodies that are functioning in this 4th world, and that there are 6 groups of crystalline layers that help with optimal functioning. And this is very important because if we are not functioning optimal, we will never be able to expand. And realize that the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st world is part of the Earth. And all those worlds are supposed to work together. We cannot contribute to this collaboration between the 4 worlds if we are not doing our job and bringing the energies of the 5 energy bodies in harmony, and we can use the crystalline energies for that. So what do we then need as human beings? So yes, the infinite consciousness is providing everything. And when it trickles down, it comes into the earth consciousness with its morphogenetic field. We tap into that one so that we have this potential that you can call the human consciousness. But in order to work with that potential, we need certain abilities, qualities. We need both reception and perception of the information that our consciousness needs to work with. We are co-creators, and as co-creators, we need to work with the Earth morphogenetic field. And we can do that only in a limited way, as we are very aware of. And one of the reasons is that we use actually a very limited reception system and have not, as a consequence, developed the needed perception system, which you can also define as the translation of that what we receive into an understanding. And for that we need the brain. So you see the brain and the bottom, and at the left side you see alpha, theta, delta, epsilon. And that are the frequencies of the brain that we need in order to use all the reception systems properly. So we have our 5 senses, and that's what we usually use, and that basically taps into the alpha. We also have a 3rd eye that we have not developed. And there are many ways to start developing them. We have the chakra systems. We think we understand that, but we begin to understand that we don't. Because the chakra system is a universal resonance system that gives us the ability to tap into almost anything in the whole universe. And then we have our heart, which is not bound by space and time. So that whole reception system can bring information in, but if we have not developed the theta, delta, epsilon, the reception is not optimal. And if you not have the corresponding frequencies, beta, gamma, hypergamma, and lambda, we will never translate it into a perception in our brain. So there's also that development of our brain and the brain frequency that is essential for us in order to develop as we are supposed and invited to develop. So we are on quite a journey. So go back to the levels of human consciousness and the fourth world. I'd like to make a few comments on those fourth world. So if you look at the first world, then it's dominated by the elemental power of fire. We have seen that already. And the key word there is consciousness. So in the first world, when we were, and then I call those human souls that entered into that world, were basically, let's say, focused on consciousness. And the beings that are still there, I call it the master race, works with consciousness. Their whole system is based on that. It's the world of the founders, white robe, sacred geometry people. And those names were the names that I used. And you can find some of the grids of the areas where they lived in the book Gift of Mother Earth. So realize this first world is still existing, and the master race is waiting for us to make a connection so that we can increasingly collaborate. The second world is dominated by the elemental power of water and is all about creation. Yeah, we know that in our stories as the world of Lemuria. Some call it Mu, some call it the motherland, especially indigenous people of the southwest call it the motherland. Nowadays I call the people that are currently living there the She. In the earth, people actually are She. And there's also the blue race, which came originally from Sirius, but integrated into this Earth system. And they're all functioning, living in what we call the second world. And also they are waiting for us. But they're also having, let's say, some challenges with our low vibrations and hope that we are willing to raise our vibration, especially to get rid of our anger and fears and worries, because that is a vibration that they can't work with. Realize in the second world, the world of creation, every thought is created instantly. We have a delay. We would not like to see our world being created at the moment that we think about it. We would be in deep problems, at least a lot of people would be. The third world, which is much closer to us and much easier to access, is dominated by the elemental power of air and resulted ultimately in this whole struggle of mind over matter. And well, that has led to the destruction of Atlantis, because that is the world of Atlantis. There are still She, and I call the inner earth people nowadays She. The She are living in there, and there are actually far more third world communities than there are second world communities. And it is possible, and they are very open at the moment to connect and to collaborate. A part of the invitation of the whole chains, where in the new vision, we are one human, independent of which world we are living. And then finally, we are living in the fourth world, dominated by the elemental power of earth. And that means that it has led to I need to have. Having something concrete creates a feeling of safety. Having food, having clothes, having a roof above our head, all of that is what we need. It's our world. But we have exaggerated, and the need to have has become the neediness to have more and more and more and more. And that has pulled our world and is pulling our world together. Is pulling it into pieces, so to speak. So the fourth world is actually consisting of three different ones again, the physical, the etheric, and the astral. So we live and function and perceive the world in the physical with our five senses. So as a consequence, we don't see the etheric world, with a few exceptions. Some people can do that. And we can't see into the astral world. We may sometimes get glimpses, but that is about it. Well, there are in total 6 different astral worlds, if I, for the sake of simplicity, call the etheric also astral, because that's what most people tend to do. So we are not even aware of our own world. We cannot even work with the beings that live in those astral worlds. And there are a lot of beings there. And they are often very annoyed with us because we disturb and disrupt through our emotions and through our belief structures their world, the astral world. This is the first step, for most people already too difficult to take. And only then we can expand into the other worlds, and then we can expand even farther, which is part of what is currently happening, as we will see. Now, in this world, where we see, in our world, where we see the world from our 5 senses, we are not aware of the astral beings, and we're also not aware that there are a lot of invisible beings. Initially, I didn't believe that, and this is then a depiction of dragons, that dragons were existing. Believe me, I believe now that they exist. I even know that they exist. I'm so convinced that I started to study them and wrote a whole book about them, as you see here. The dragons, guardians of creative powers. Because the dragons, some people call them elemental beings. I'm always very careful with that term because it's so confusing. But they help us to work with the creative elemental powers in such a way that we become more conscious in our creation. And there are in total 45 species of dragons. And actually, there are 7 new ones coming in right now, because things are unfolding and evolving. And as soon as you go to higher vibration beyond the 4 worlds, is what's happening right now, you need dragons that can help us in those worlds to be a conscious creator as well. We are living in a very, very dynamic world at the moment. So this is a little bit of an overview to help you to understand how the dragons are working. So there are 4 groups: the fire, water, and air, and earth group again. So the fire dragons help us to connect, because they are, fire is consciousness, to help us to connect with the morphogenetic fields and grids and set the energies of it into motion, so that it can be brought into the water, which is creation, and the water dragons help with that. But then it needs to have life force in order to be alive, so that you can get a manifested form. Sometimes it goes this way, that after water it goes into the manifested form, and then you need the life force to come in through that. So the manifestation is earth. DNA is basically only helping to express it. It is not the one, it's the reception of the information during the creation. And then it contributes to the manifestation. So it's a very beautiful system. And we are working with it every day, and we are not even aware of it. We are not aware that the dragons are there to help us. And as soon as we are willing to open, and an increasing number of people are doing that, then we see, wow, what a wonderful beings are the dragons. Not the ones depicted in movies, not the one depicted in horror stories, right? So if you want to study all those beautiful invisible beings, you have to go through their morphogenetic grids that are all over the earth. And this is an example of a grid of an earth dragon. And you see the bottle. I make essences so that we can work with it in workshops or otherwise. So this image in and of itself is something you can connect with if you choose to. You can pause and feel for yourself whether you can make a connection with this earth dragon system. But we can go a step further. Yes, also unicorns exist. I made a whole workshop which is called the Path to Purity, because what are they doing? The unicorns help us to do this creation process in a pure way. It's not so surprising that in all our stories we often combine dragons and unicorns, because they are, in a sense, working together. The dragons help us to be the creator, and the unicorns help us to be creators conscious creators in the most pure way possible. There are 6 species of unicorns, and in the same way as there are new dragon species coming in, there is also a 7th unicorn species that has come in recently. All to help us to expand even beyond. It's like setting the stage for a new Earth. And it sounds a little bit difficult for many people to believe, but that's literally what's happening. So these are parallel processes, the process of unfoldment within our 4th world with the expansion into all 4 worlds that exist. And parallel to that is the setting the stage for this expansion, for the evolution of the Earth, leading to the new Earth. And we need those unicorns for that. And also here you see a grid. I gave them names. The little unicorn is actually the one that helps us specifically at the frequency that you can say resonates with our etheric, so the emotional elements that can easily disrupt proper creation, and also emotions can disturb the purity of what we are doing. So this is the image of that, and again you can choose to pause it if you want. So when I mention the dragons as a kind of elemental beings, well, there is another group that is also working with the elements, the 4 elemental powers, and that are the archangels. So there are 4 major archangels, again connected to the 4 elemental powers. Actually, the archangels were the first ones connected to the elemental power. So they have been throughout creation. And the archangels and angels are the ones that help independent conscious units, I always call them. So let's say beings that are independently functioning on a consciousness level, and then there are angels that are guiding them. In that sense, we have our personal angel that guides us. Yeah? And all those angels are coming forth from the 4 major archangels. So when a person is saying, hey, I feel a connection with Archangel Michael, then you may not be the top of the whole thing, but that level of frequency that in this moment can guide you most optimal on your journey. But it can be one of those that belong to the, you can say the descended line of Archangel Michael. You see in the corner angel meditations, because they are so important to connect with, that we made about 12 different YouTube videos with meditations to connect in different ways with the 4 major archangels and the trinities of them, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely worthwhile to work with them. And there is also one meditation that helps you to connect specifically with the angel that is your personal angel. Now we have come to what a lot of people will immediately say, oh my goodness, this is so complex. I can't even look at all those letters that you're showing here. Sorry about that. But let me guide you through, and then you see that this is actually very interesting. So we go back to the 4 elemental powers. Yeah. And interestingly, there are other group, I call them the ancient ones, that are connected with that. And as part of that, there is an overseer of the earth element, and that leads to 5 different species on earth. Species of devas. So what are devas? Well, devas are actually kind of angels. The difference is that the angel is working with, you can say, units or beings, consciousness units, while throughout the universe, while devas are working with independent functional units, manifested units. Yeah. So we have now 5 worlds, and we move into the new world, the 5th world, and there are already the devas that are coordinating everything in those 5 worlds. And then if you look at the deva forms in our 4th world, then you come to those blocks that you see there. So of course there is the fire, water, air, and earth, and they each have a trinity. Fire, water, air. And each of those have again a trinity. And that leads to, in total, 12 and ultimately 36 different forms. So there are 36 groups of devas. And every manifested form in this world belongs to one of those 36 groups. So you can easily define, what where a group is, or a species, an animal, a plant, but even you are belonging to. So what you see if you take the first letter of, in the last blocks, and let's take the one to the left, you see fire as first word, so an F is the first letter, then there is the F of the second letter, and if you then go to the first of the FWA, then you have fire, fire, fire. So that is the first type of deva, and then you have fire, fire, water, and fire, fire, air. And you can go through the 36 in that way. And you say, why would we do that? Why would we do that? If you are making a connection with them, you can communicate with the deva to help understand, all kinds of systems here on Earth, because they can give you that information. And aren't we co-creators? And does a co-creator not also be a part of its creation? It's what it's co-created. So it is important to realize that everything that we set into motion results in independent functional units, and there will be a deva, and it's nice to know what it is. It also helps to understand the different groups of beings, plants, and animals, and how they are to some degree related with respect to the way they function. So let me give you a few examples, because otherwise it's not very concrete for most of you. So let's go to the next. We can take as an example this banana yaka. When we look at the deva that's connected with it, then we come to the deva of the group water, water, air. You see that's WWA. When you take another yucca species, like the soap tree yucca, then you see that the type of deva is exactly the same. Water, water, air. So similar species of plants, of animals, and there must be pretty large groups, have a similar type of deva. I don't know all the details because there is so much to research. I cannot share all the different elements because I don't know them. And to give another example, if you take the deva of a quartz crystal, then it will be an earth, earth, fire deva. If you look at the personal deva that you have, and it doesn't matter, we all have a slightly different deva because there's an interaction between the deva and you as a person. You will have a water, air, and earth. We have a meditation to connect with your personal deva, and it's not on our channel, it's on our old channel. It's called Metaphysical Ecology instead of Center for Metaphysical Ecology. I know that those who have done it really liked it, and I would recommend it. So now we come to the conclusion, and we do that through a few overviews. So basically what we see in this moment is that from the infinite consciousness, through the universal sun, and through different galactic groups, clusters, superclusters of stars, into the galactic sun, which is the center of our galaxy, to our sun, to the earth, and from the earth into the co-creator and the new level of co-creator, which we call the enlightened human being, there is a stream of energy that comes down. And that means it's not constant. We can continuously expand. It's not that the potential of the earth is fixed. No, it's not. And this whole system is guided by crystalline consciousness. And a part of that crystalline consciousness are the 12 chakras. So that's why Jeannie came up with that name, the crystalline universe. And you can say there are a number of paths that we have in our center in order to study this, to work with this, and to stimulate you to contribute to the development of a new vision. So one is this, our personal development, path 1, the co-creator. Path 2 is, okay, the earth and everything that is part of that, you know, all the species, the morphogenetic grids, and all the beauty that's there, but also all the new energies that are coming in from the different star systems, which is part 3, and we know that as the connecting with the family and the stars, which is a whole cluster that we have of working with those energies. So we are actually this being. There's this consciousness that is entering into our system, and it enters into our spiritual body. And then it goes into the higher mind. And belonging to the higher mind are also the thoughts and the emotions of past lives. And then it goes to the left, which is the lower mind, the thoughts and emotions of this lifetime. And then it goes into the physical body to be expressed. And that are our actions into this world as co-creators, with all the help of all those beings that we talked about. So what is the key in the center? Love, the heart. The heart is the one that makes that this whole flow is going in alignment with what our spiritual essence is trying to tell us. And with to tell us, I mean to our physical body, so that we can express and realize our soul purpose. And that is why we need to help each other. Yeah. And this is part of the vision, is the completeness of understanding all those different steps, including how our minds and how information is working through the brain, and how our minds are disrupting often the proper translation from what we receive into what we need to perceive. So we have the human consciousness and the Gaia consciousness that works both on the earth. You know, it works on the information system, which is the morphogenetic field, the outside, on Mother Earth as a whole, on all forms that live in it, but also on the atoms and basically on all the quantum parts as well. I could have added quantum to this. We have an impact on it. Every thought of us has an impact on that. And we need to really become aware of that if you want to create a different world. And we see here that the morphogenetic field of the universe is going down to through the solar system into Mother Earth morphogenetic field. The star family, through new waves that are coming in, is bringing in more new energy, and that will create a change in the way Mother Earth is evolving and expressing herself, becoming a more integrated part in the solar system, and as a consequence, the solar system can become a more integrated part of the whole beautiful galaxy, and so on and so forth. So these are the images of the locations where new energies are coming in. It's not part of this presentation to go deeper into that. For those who are really interested in those new waves, we have the different online courses that is called the Family and the Stars. And then you can connect with that, with those different energies in far more detail, and contribute and help with the evolvement of being a co-creator and create a new Earth. That is exciting. So feel for yourself whether you want to contribute to that, and then join us. So in summary, the crystalline universe. To the left you see all these different groups, which means nothing more than crystalline frequencies. The crystalline frequencies of groups 1 to 6 belong to our world, and from 1 to 9 to the worlds that are already existing. But what is happening is that when we see that groups 10 to 12 is the new 5th world, waves 1 and 2 that came in, the new waves that are helping this this earth into the next step of evolution, but it's also helping us to become enlightened human beings so that we will be a completely different type of co-creator. And we can expand into that, and I call that the expanded world, the expanded fifth world, which makes it possible for the earth to develop its full potential. That's the third wave. And that expands also our consciousness into even more enlightenment. That is that's difficult for us to grasp, but that's the journey. Is that the end? Of course, there's no end. If evolution continues, we keep evolving. Yeah? There is already a fourth wave, and that helps us to contribute through Mother Earth to the development of the full potential of the solar system. When we are evolving, the solar system can evolve, and the energies for that are already present. And it can go even farther. We can go to the development of the full potential of the Milky Way, and then we become galactic human beings. And we can also talk about the development of the full potential of the universe, but that's beyond my comprehension. That is what content I would like to present to you in this lecture. And what follows now, as you know, is a meditation to help you to integrate. I know this was an overload. I'm aware of that. But as I said earlier, you don't have to understand and know everything. And you can always go back. Understanding that this amount of information can help you to understand who you are and what your role is, and help you with your unfoldment. Enjoy the coming meditation. I know it was quite a journey to go through all this information. I hope you understand that it's not about grasping every detail. It's about getting the impression that there is so much more, that we have so much more potential, that the potential of the earth is unbelievable, and that we are living in a universe where that potential can be expanded, because everything is interacting and the standard idea is always evolving. And some people feel frustrated that they live in this world and say, I don't belong here. It's an understandable idea, and I hope you understand now that we have all made this choice to come to this earth to support its evolution, but yes, to be, you can say, jumping into the low vibration of the physical world. For our souls is like, oh my goodness, what did I do? What happened to me when I signed up for this contract? As my friend would joke, I forgot to read the small letters, and I'm sure you have heard that joke before. Through meditation, you may be able to connect with some of what has been shared. And that's why I like to do meditations, because it changes from a stream. And I've heard so many times that I have the tendency to put all this information to people, but to bring that stream of information into a more integrated way into our system. So let's do a meditation to help you to do so. And it's always good to close your eyes so that we stop our sensory input for a moment, other than that of the sound, and begin with what I call the process of relaxation. It's such an important process in general for us, but it's definitely very important if we want to use our brain in a more expanded way. And we talked about, the reception, perception. If you want to go to expansion of your perception of what you already receive, let alone expansion of what you receive, you need to go to those meditative states, as it's called. And you cannot go there unless you relax. The most important thing is to set the intention. I choose to relax as deeply as I can in this moment. And while you allow that intention to unfold into a deeper relaxation, you also take a few deeper inhalations and exhalations, because that stimulates your vagus nerve and will support that process of relaxation. And it is important to always feel what happens whatever you do. What is the effect of your intention and the breathing and the relaxation? And the more you get relaxed, the more from the perspective of your mind, it will feel that everything is okay, everything is safe. Because the mind wants to keep you safe. And as soon as it feels that you are relaxed, it says, oh, this person is safe. I can relax. And that allows the heart to begin to guide you. While the mind is controlling you, the heart is guiding you. In one of the last images, you saw the heart being in the center, determining how the minds are functioning, which determines how spiritual and physical are bridged. And the heart will immediately connect you deeper with your spiritual essence, bring in more light in your system, but also brings in more what I call unconditional love. And we are too conditional in our love. So bring your awareness to your heart and let your heart guide you into this deeper connection with your spiritual essence. Connecting physical and spiritual. This will allow you to function in this world more optimally as a co-creator, allowing you to contribute more optimally to the evolution of Mother Earth, the unfoldment of a new Earth. And be aware that when you are in this state of deeper connection with your spiritual essence, all connections that you're making will be much deeper. And the most important first step is always to connect with Mother Earth. So let's set now the intention that we connect with Mother Earth as deeply as we can. And again, observe and feel what's happening. What shifts? And send now your love, your light, and your gratitude to her. Realizing that you are an integrated part of her and that she's always supporting you directly or indirectly. and feel how she responds. And maybe you can feel it, but if you don't feel it, become aware that there is actually no real separation between you and her. Even though you are a completely independent, functional being, you also are an integrated part of Mother Earth. To the best of your ability, feel that. And now feel also that you, as an individual human being, are an integrated part of the whole collective system of humanity. Even there, you can function as an independent unit, but you also will always be connected because we all are connected to the same field from which everything springs. It's actually the we field that we need to develop in such a way that we can again believe in the potential that we have as a collective. And stay in your heart, because you can only believe in the potential of the collective from that place of your heart, because your mind will judge. Your heart never judges. And now expand into all beings that live with us on this beautiful planet. All beings that are visible, but we include also all beings that are invisible. Realizing that we are all children of Mother Earth, all contributing in our own unique way to how this Earth system as a totality is functioning. So feel yourself expanding from this we consciousness into this all consciousness, into this consciousness that embraces all other beings, knowing that we support each other to help Mother Earth to evolve. And now be aware that this beautiful planet is part of the solar system. And that all the other planets, all being crystalline in nature, are depending on the sun that induces continuously new energies, new possibilities to all its planets in its system as a part of the sun's evolution. So feel the sun that we can so easily feel when we walk outside. When the sun is shining, is actually the source of a lot of the information that determines the world we live in, the potential of what this place can be. And feel gratitude for the sun, providing all that is needed to allow this planet to evolve its full potential, the new Earth. And while we know we can expand beyond that, for now, let's feel these energies in such a way that you feel confident with your place in the whole and your contribution to the new Earth. So let's sit for a couple of minutes in this energy to allow things to unfold, trusting that it will guide you exactly to where you need to be. And take again a deep breath. Bring your awareness back to the place you're sitting and open your eyes again. Thank you for your contribution. I realize that the fact that you are here in this moment means that that you have chosen to be here to contribute to the development of this new Earth. And as here, I don't mean only during this particular event or this lecture. No, here on Earth, you, in this moment, incarnated. Everyone is needed. If you were not needed, you would not be here. But how we contribute is, of course, important. And we need to support each other. And learning from each other to look at this world in a more expanded way, in such a way that we can also function more optimally. I hope that I have contributed in such a way that there are a few things that you are willing to ponder upon. I do that all the time. And I believe that without doing that, I can't grow. I wish you in your life a beautiful journey in finding your uniqueness so that you can optimally contribute to this beautiful earth, creating a new earth. Thank you.